Hey, welcome to the Steve Davis Show. Special guest today is Gary Tripp, former executive director of the MMA, and I wouldn't be sitting here if Gary Tripp wasn't in my life.
No, I don't know about that, Steve.
There's a lot of truth to that, but what a great run you have. I've had you on my show before and things, but what you are is a true New Mexican. You're similar to myself, yeah. and you have a heart of gold for student athletes, and that's the Gary Tripp in one sentence there.
Hey,
almost.
well, thank you. It's kind of similar. I was watching you the other night when you were covering Clovis and Cleveland, and couldn't get out to the game, so I watched it, and I kept seeing, there's Steve. He says, I've always got a little bit of blood for Clovis, but you're a true New Mexican too, and so we kind of got the similar backgrounds, but you're a big-time Lobo. I wasn't.
But your roots, I'm from Clovis, and I'm proud of that, and as your roots are from Las Vegas, and
very
how many roots are from Las Vegas? I mean, I think about this all the time. If you look at APS, all the people that are involved with that have graduated from Highland or went to school in Las Vegas, went to UNM, and some aspect, it just seems like on a monthly basis, I'm always meeting somebody from Las Vegas.
I enjoy talking and having coffee with my brother Ricky, because every game he covers for you, he always makes some kind of connection to Vegas. And then now
it's amazing though.
Everybody from around here,
well,
there's some kind of connection.
Wherever the game is. I mean, we've done games in, where was it? We were in one of those little small towns, Rio Dosa. We're now not in Rio Dosa, but in right there.
Hondo or what?
Right. One of those right there, and it was amazing that there was I think it was somebody in the restaurant was actually from Las Vegas.
Well, I tell you, the last few days, what I'm doing right when I leave here is I'm going to all the charter schools and getting signatures on something with my current job, and I walk into a building and it's Gary Tripp, West Las Vegas, or Gary Tripp, you're married to so-and-so from Robertson, or Gary Tripp, Highlands University. And it's like Vegas connections everywhere around the city, everywhere around the state. It's wonderful. Vegas has been around since the early 1800s, and it's been you grow up in, and good kids, but this whole state is wonderful.
Let's talk about your career. I mean, I think the other thing too, when I think of Gary Tripp is the education. I mean, education is very big in your vocabulary, and it's something I learned when I just got associated with you. And that's almost been 13 years ago.
Yep. We, it's been a wonderful career. I'm kind of at the end of it. I'm pretty close to the end. I'm going to say a couple of years away, but been in it for about 35 years, and from West Las Vegas to New Mexico Highlands University to Moriarty Pintos to Rio Rancho Rams to the NMAA, and getting to everything, and helping kids succeed, helping kids advance, helping kids in this state move forward has been a passion. It's been a true passion, and education is what my wife and I decided to do, and we raised two kids through a great educational system here in New Mexico, and I consider it a great system, because I think if you really strive to succeed, you can, and so it's been a good run, Steve. It's been a really good run for Jeanette and I, and hopefully it'll continue.
One thing I watched your career and been around you, and all in a great way. And we'll just start with Moriarty. You had something you wanted to leave. You wanted kind of a legacy. So what did you leave at Moriarty? And then let's just kind of go to Rio Rancho and then go to the thing. I mean, not to throw you off the deal, but I just know that was probably your beginning of your career and your expectations of yourself. So where were you at that stage of your life?
Well, it's funny you asked, because what comes to mind right away at Moriarty was becoming, and that's where I was a coach and a teacher, my students won in 1987. They won the U.S. Constitution competition here in New Mexico. So we got to represent. I remember the first group we beat was Highland High School here in Albuquerque, and then the second year we beat Pecos High School, which we were all studying the United States Constitution, and we were representing New Mexico and Washington, D.C., and it was just a great thing to be considered an educator that was educating kids, and kids that were performing at the national level academically was a great thing. But that's where I started my administrative career, and I was able to hook up with Dan Sosvidel and started running the baseball clinics around the state. Got all over the state running the baseball clinics, and then got to be athletic administrator. And we actually started soccer in Moriarty. We started cross country. We started wrestling. I remember Dave Latham started wrestling, and I remember Raul Alvarez started cross country, and I remember Dave and Lee Brundridge and some guys that helped us start soccer, and it was a good run starting those sports for kids, while at the same time staying very high level competitive in track and football and basketball and those other sports that the Pintos have been really good at, you know. But the biggest thing about, well, they're not the biggest thing, but just something that's special in my heart is the Moriarty Pinto baseball program, you know.
You got a little baseball blood in yourself. So
Got some baseball blood, and you know, when Kyle Banks and Matt Moore made it to the big leagues, and it was a combination of a lot of success for a lot of Moriarty Pinto baseball players and guys that I'm real close to, guys that I feel real a deep love, like they're my kids, because I was their coach, and to see Matt and Kyle do that and do the things they've done in the big leagues, either with the Padres or Matt with the, of course, with the Giants, because that's my favorite team, and when I got to honor Matt, but now it's just a great thing. The Moriarty Pinto baseball is dear to my heart, and we've had a few good friends, Tony Jaramillo, John Rubin, Michael Chavez, who played for me. That whole group of us, Buck Glenn, that whole group that we coached those Moriarty Pintos kids, it's just a great feeling, you know. And we kind of think Farmington took it away from us when Matt and Bobby and Kyle and those guys and Ben Gonzalez, those guys were playing up in Farmington. I was at the NMA. I couldn't do anything, but kind of root for them, because you always root for your kids, you know. But Farmington beat us one year in that state championship game. I think it was 1-0 or 2-1. But Moriarty Pinto baseball has come a long ways in the last 3 decades.
Well, Gary, we're going to go to the Dream Style Top 10 Plays of the Week. Come back. We're going to pick up in more.
All right.
We went to Rio Rancho.
Hey, that sounds good.
Let's go. Crossover for Dockery, and he's going to go all the way and a smooch off the wing. To his left. Oh, Satterfield says wipe it away. Isaiah had that stripped on the way up, and Coach Murphy yelled out one shot, and they went too quickly there. Now Abayat has his have another. One more in transition for Satterfield. field. Up high, down hard, with no regard for human life.
Get into the game with Garden Swartz Team Sales. They have everything you need, from screen printing, embroidery, and digital printing services, high school letterman jackets, and all high school and club uniforms, and individual and team apparel with the most reliable brands like Speedline, Rollins, and Wilson. And don't forget to check out the latest F7 Shut helmet. It's all at Garden Swartz Team Sales. Give them a call, 505-884-1234. Garden Swartz Team Sales.
Hey, welcome back to the Steve Daly Show. We've got Gary Tripp, former executive director of the MMA, and Gary, you know, your time ran out at Moriarty, and you kind of just moved. Those things people were watching across the state, and Rio Rancho opens up.
Yeah, Rio Rancho opened up. It was kind of interesting. I applied to be an assistant principal at Rio Rancho High School, trying to get away from the athletic world, get back in the academic world, and do a good job. Steve, believe it or not, I was at Rio Rancho working for Dr. Sue Cleveland.
How about that? And the school's named after her.
Yeah, and the school's named after her. But you couldn't work for probably the top level administrator in our state, in our generation, is Dr. Cleveland, and working under her for 12 months as an assistant principal at Rio Rancho High School, and I, on my first day, I was on vacation in Moriarty because I was commuting from Moriarty to Rio Rancho.
Well, that's a little bit of a drive.
That's 1 hour and 20 minutes. I remember that.
It's like 2
One
hours
way.
and 40 hours.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yep. I was on my first day in June. I was on my first day of vacation break, and I got a call from Emma Dreyer, and she said, "Gary, can you be here in an hour to see Dr. Cleveland?" And I was actually mowing my lawn, and I said, "Emma, I cannot be there in 1 hour from Moriarty. I can get in the shower and be there within an hour and a half." And she said, "Okay, as soon as you can get here, she wants to talk to you." I was scared. I didn't know what to expect, but she called me in and asked me to be the interim principal, and then lo and behold, 3 or 4 months later, she asked me to be the principal at Rio Rancho High School, and what a great venture that was, for those 5 years.
Back, that was Intel. There was a lot of influx of money. I mean, it was the right place at the right time for your career.
A lot of luck.
Right.
Intel's huge, and very, very. Bill Garcia, who was running Intel.
Everybody's jealous of everything you
we were
have.
talking about a Vegas connection. Bill Garcia's wife, Eileen, is the leader of Intel's wife is from Las Vegas, New Mexico. I grew up with her 2 younger brothers, and I had known a little bit about Bill Garcia from Gallup, New Mexico, and it was such a great thing that Intel was pretty much one of the big leaders of Intel was a New Mexican, and he was very supportive of Rio Rancho and Siebel and all the schools that were around the Intel area. And so right place, right time, and then Gary Veem, good friend of mine, but Gary Veem hiring the right people in a new school to lead some quality programs. So you talk about Toby Monsonatis and Ron Murphy and I'm still there, and Uwe Balsas, and just a bunch of guys and ladies. My brother-in-law Larry Chavez, who started the cross country program there for Gary Veem, and Larry's still there, So it's just, you talk about being at the right place at the right time, but you talk about some leaders in that school, not just athletically, but academically as well. Some leaders that really got championship style success going for kids, and they're still there.
Well, the thing about it was not only it was in the athletic and also the activities, and then just education. I mean, you look at, and it also helped with Intel because they gave you the state of art. I mean, people were like envious. I mean, when they opened up and people went out to see the facilities, which still, it's what, 20 years later. I was trying to think that I was looking at it the other night at how long the school's been there a while now. So,
well, Steve, you know this from Clovis. When all the leaders in the community rally around something, it's going to create so much success in everything, you know. And I can think of Rio Rancho, I can think of Tom Swistak, and of course Dr. Cleveland, I can think of the Chamber of Commerce with Debbie Moore. I can think of so many leaders in that community, Bill Garcia at Intel. I can think we're going to be successful. Don Chalmers, it didn't matter what it was. I was a high school principal, and I could call Don Chalmers and say, Don, and he said, you want to meet at WEX at 6:30 tomorrow morning? And I just said, yes, sir. And then the next morning it was, what do we need? You know, and it was like, we have this idea. And he said, okay. He said, okay. And it was like, so we had resources, but we also had people that if this was going to be good for kids, then we want to do it. You know, I know at Rio Rancho High School, one of the things I cherish the most is we started the Phoenix Dinner. And the Phoenix Dinner was 25 dropouts that had come back to high school and were going to graduate. They were going to get a degree. And I remember Don Chalmers saying, I want the same thing for those kids at a banquet that we have at the Crimson Dinner, which is the top 25 kids. So they would invite all their family, they'd invite their favorite teacher from elementary through high school. They would have a steak dinner. They would have a motivational guest speaker. Just like the Crimson Dinner, they would have a nice award, and it was treating them with all the dignity that they deserved, you know, and it was like one of the great things. I remember Mike Riley and I, who was our counselor, and Mike is now the big head counselor at La Cueva High School, I think, but that Phoenix Dinner was just something special, you know, in the community of Rio Rancho. They still do it to this day, the Rio Rancho Rams, you know. You know, we got some kids that, you know, things go astray, you know, things happen, but they came back and they became successful, and
well,
just keeps going.
What a great concept. I mean, you know, I think about that. I mean, to reward somebody that could gone the other way.
That's
you know,
right.
And at that time, didn't feel that they were a part of the school system, or for whatever reason, or home life, or whatever it could be, that being recognized as one of the top people in that school. Yep.
So there's just so many great things. But you know, I had my daughter there. You know, Gail was a student.
Great volleyball career.
Yeah, played in all 4 state championship games. Won 2, lost 2. You know, and
went to UNM.
Went to UNM, but you know, it was nice. It was what a place where you're the principal of probably, I think at the time, the finest institution, high school institution in the state of New Mexico. I can't say enough about our teaching staff, our coaching staff, and everybody there. Best students in the world, and everybody succeeding, you know, at a high level. And your daughter, you know, you have your daughter right there to enjoy it with, you know. So that was a pretty special thing.
I'll ask this question. You know, you're successful at Moriarty, you know, and you talked about that, and you were successful at Rio Rancho, but it seemed like you weren't content. You know what? We're going to pick up on what I just said with that when we come back in the next segment.
All right.
The New Mexico High School Coaches Association, established in 1941, is an organization of New Mexico's best and most professional interscholastic coaches. Coaches across work daily to help our student athletes excel in the classroom, on the field of play, and in our communities. Students that participate in interscholastic activities attain higher grades, higher graduation rates, and higher wages. Responsible for the North-South All-Star Games, statewide Coaches Award Program, and providing multiple professional development opportunities for New Mexico's coaches. Be a great coach by coaching beyond the game.
Well, I'm going to the frontier, walk up to the cashier, order up a root beer and a #1. Cover it with green stuff, 1 scoop is not enough. Find a booth is real tough, back by the Duke. Meet my family, meet my friends in the quirkiest restaurant I have ever been. All of Albuquerque's favorite spot, it's the Frontier Restaurant.
The Frontier Restaurant is a proud supporter of Proview Sports Network. Don't sacrifice quality of flavor when you're in a hurry. Golden Pride offers ribs, fried chicken, green and red chili breakfast burritos, and Frontier Cinnabons. 4 great locations, or visit us online at goldenprideabq.com. Golden Pride Barbecue Chicken and Ribs, proud supporter of Proview Sports Network.
Sadie's is a proud supporter of New Mexico high school sports and athletics, and we here at Proview Networks would like to thank Sadie's for their continued support in helping us bring you all of your New Mexico high school sports coverage.
Hey, welcome back to the Steve Davis Show. Great morning with Gary Tripp, former executive director of the MMA, and we kind of got off on that word. Is that when I said that? Do you have like a burning desire that there was something, there was a calling, and that you just, or was it because everything, Rio Rancho's, at that time was the place. I mean, it was, it was very, facilities, everything, like I said, everybody was behind you and doing things, but then another calling, I guess you would say, and I never really, tell me about how that all evolves.
I was.
You said Salisbury,
yeah,
I didn't put that together back to,
I was always close to Dan, always service, I felt like I was service oriented, being a member of the NMAA, and Dan and I had a really good relationship, and he allowed me to do all the baseball clinics for I think 3 or 4 years in the state of New Mexico. I would travel all over the state when I was in Moriarty, and so I was always looking at the NMAA, but it came a little bit at the wrong time, but again at the right time, because Dan leaves the NMAA, and all of a sudden there's an opening. And you don't get that opening very often in life, so you gotta go for it.
I talk to people all the time, younger people. I said, you have an opportunity, you have opportunities, and it goes to drinking and to partying and doing all this, and you have these opportunities to play sports, and that window of opportunity, you got to sometimes make that quick decision. And
and you have to make it. So it was like I love. One thing I enjoy working for Dr. Cleveland, that's by far because of her high level of professionalism, her knowledge, her support, and then you just loved Rio Rancho, the staff and the kids and the community and the resources, and everything was there for success. But the NMAA, and be in charge of the whole state, and that was a dream, and I always said that was always a dream job, and all of a sudden it came open, so I had to try for it, and God has blessed me. You got to be lucky, you got to work hard. I think you and I have both, like a lot of citizens in this state, have worked really hard to do well, and but you couldn't pass up to at least attempt it. And went in and
how did you
got
feel
lucky.
when you got that call that you said that? I know you were. You had to do your due diligence and do everything and be politically correct and everything.
I think Bill Moffitt, the superintendent, the vice president of the board, was from Deming, and he called me. And
so was the call? It was like, do I want to take this phone call, or do I want to, or not want to?
That's exactly right. I was thinking, okay, it's going to be thanks for applying, and you were a finalist, and we interviewed you, and good luck to you, or it was going to be, you got the job, and it was you got the job, and here so all of a sudden.
Would you try not to hold any emotion, or you say, well, or try to be like, oh, I deserve it? Or was it like, hey, when do I get started, or what do we know?
In 1978.
I just know you well enough. I was just trying to see how you were. I would have loved to have seen a picture of that moment with you on the telephone, and you're like, did this phone call really happen, or is this? Am I really the guy? So.
It was really jumping up and down. I'm a spirited guy. You can ask Joe Bailey, a good friend of mine in Moriarty, when we coach together. I kind of used to. I'm more reserved now that I'm older, but when I was younger, oh my gosh, it was like I could fly off the handle. Just like you see a lot of coaches. But it was just great. The NMA came that year, and I think it was 04 or something like that, 04, and it was December, and I was going to start in June, about a month went by, and it was like, I can't wait. And Dr. Cleveland says, no, you can't wait. And I think Neil Nuttall was the superintendent, and Clovis was the president, and he said, if you don't want to wait, that sounds great with us too, you know. So, you know, Dr. Cleveland was a president of the NMA board at one time. She was the first female president of the New Mexico Activity Association's board of directors. And so she understood the state, she understood the needs and that were there at the time, you know. And she said, you know,
Well,
go forward. So she let me leave right in the middle of the year. You know, I didn't stay for graduation or anything. That my daughter was graduating, you know, but it was just one of those things that needed to get going and get started, and finances were a little bit of an issue at the NMA at the time. So I was able to. Small school input was a little bit of an issue at the time, you know. Rallied my team around me, you know. I brought Sally Marcus in, you know, great in terms of an administrator, but great in terms of budget. You know, people don't really realize that because she's in charge of the NMA now, but she was a real good budget person. She's got a math background, and then you got Mario Martinez coming in, and he's got a real strength relationship with small school New Mexico, and just started assembling my team and started getting after it, you know, trying to build relationships in this state.
What was your highlight of the MMA?
You know, there was a lot of highlights, but you know, I really appreciate and I thank God a lot for the relationships that I had developed. You know, our relationship. You know,
I was going to tell you, that's when we didn't know each other from anywhere,
Yeah.
and I get a call from Gary Tripp. I'm like, where did this come from? I mean, it was really, well, look, I'm not, I was like, what did I get, what did I do? You know, it was funny, and we went to lunch, and you said you had some ideas on doing
some video streaming for kids.
Well, actually, truthfully, it was the student athlete raising the foundation.
The foundation. Bud Mocock and you and I and that's right, the foundation.
We started out with $327, and I was like, well, I think we need to move this up a little bit.
Yeah, we started in that bank up the street, First Community Bank. Yeah, that's right. That's right. But the NMA, the relationships that we created, I was working around, my boss, David Chavez, is we need to get signatures from every school in the state of New Mexico, charter, public, universities. So I'm going around the city of Albuquerque, and I run into a principal. She was a former principal at Washington Middle School here in Albuquerque. Her son played at Valley High School and everything else. And she said, Gary, you don't remember me, but I remember that at Socorro at New Mexico Tech, at one of our NMA functions, you had a nice cup of coffee with several of us after you spoke, and you were just so down to earth. And I thought, it was such a compliment, because I thought relationships were so important, because we could do this very successfully, whatever this is. To me, running the girls and boys state basketball tournament together and making it maybe the primary high school event in the United States, we can do this because we're New Mexico. We're great people, and we just got to rally around. Or the baseball coach is doing 2 out of 3. Okay, well, we can do this, you know, whatever it is.
Well, Gary, I want to wish you Merry Christmas, and thanks for coming on the Steve Davis Show.
Hey, I thank you, man. This has been fun and close to my heart, Steve. Thank you. I've really had a good time this morning.